Good day, eh? We are going to break down half moon pose, aka Ardha Chandrasana. You are going to need a wall for this sequence. If you don't have a wall, if you have like a folding chair or something that's about the height of the hips, you could use a chair as well. But the wall is awfully helpful. One strap, and we're going to go ahead and put a loop in it today. And one block or something that will give you some height. And even if you usually do half moon without the height, I'm going to ask you to work with the height today so that we try to keep the same shape as we move throughout, and then we'll move in towards that possibility of getting rid of the block. So let's click pause, by the way, if you're like, make your loop, get your stuff ready, and then let's come on down onto our backs when you're ready, and you can hit play again. I'm going to actually come fairly close to the wall. I shouldn't say fairly close to the wall. I have my knees a little bit bent. My feet are flat on the wall and my legs are in a neutral position. So my knees are pointing up to the sky. For some of us, that means our feet might turn in or out a little bit, depending on what's happening with our shin, ankle bones, etc. So if you're someone where you need to turn the feet out a little bit, the more important thing to me is that your knees point straight up to the sky when you do this, and then let your feet fall where they may, right? My femurs are in neutral rotation. Now, without lifting and kind of wiggling back, right? So I'm not too far away from the wall. I'm going to push into my feet to straighten my legs, hyperextenders, be cautious, don't lock your knees, she says as she locks her right knee. And what that does is that kind of pulls my shoulder blades and my buttocks down towards the ground. It keeps this containment we've talked about of your front ribs and your front hips saying hi to each other. I could also say the ribs don't get the opportunity to flare, the low ribs, right? And just take a moment and take a very, very mini Shavasana here, right? So tune into your body. And with this new position, my feet against the wall, right? My buttocks and my shoulder blades gently being pulled down. Still trying to soften everything you don't need, but again, just having an awareness of this new position. You might not have ever taken Shavasana against the wall. As someone who has used to have a really extreme turnout on my thigh bones, external rotation, and my knees and my ankles and my feet and all kinds of things. This was an extremely helpful tool for me to help gaining back some stability around that so I didn't fall out so widely all the time. And then go ahead and bring your right knee into your chest. You're going to keep your left foot planted at the wall. And simply bring the right knee in, but I want you to notice it's not wrong. Rounding the back is never wrong. That's not what I'm saying. Flexion is one of the 6 movements, right? I say there are 7 movements of the spine. But I want you to notice that as you hug that knee in towards the chest, you are now rounding your low back down towards or maybe even to the floor, right? And again, there's nothing wrong with that. This is awesome. We're stretching it out a little bit, and that is great. But I want you to notice the difference between when my leg moves away from me a little bit, usually about a 90 degree or so. Makes it more accessible to find the natural curve of the low back, right? And then when I bring it in, again, I'm rounding my spine a little bit. And if it helps you to play with that a little bit with your awareness in your low back, please do. And then you're going to take that strap, we're going to go right into it. There's not going to be a ton of warming up. Our warming up is working this from here. And I just realized I have the heater on. We're still they're still waiting for the piece, the manufacturing. So we don't have heat down here at the space. So pardon my heater. And then from there, as you push that foot up towards a 90 degree, but if you need to move the leg a little bit away for this first part, just to start warming up the back of the leg, right? So I'm gonna just have my right hand on the strap, but you'll notice that my arm is long. I still have that shoulder blade being pulled down from the original pushing into the wall that we did, and I'm pushing my heel out away from me. I'm gonna bring mine in a little bit more. My hamstring stretches here more at about a 90 or so. Maybe you're even a little closer. Right, so if you come really close to the face, you probably don't need to stretch your hamstring crazy amounts, right? It's probably already got plenty of length. Now come to 90, everybody, whether that means you bend the knee to do that or you move the leg away from you and you're not feeling the stretch. It is no longer about the hamstring stretch. We're looking for that 90-degree angle in the body. This is going to be, of course, our standing leg when we do actual half moon, right? So from there, you're going to tee your left arm out for stability. You're going to push that left foot into the wall, the heel particularly, the middle of the heel. And then go ahead and start to release that right leg out to the right until you feel your inner groin stretch. For this first one, I'd like you to bring the elbow, the right elbow, down to the ground. Now, if that means you provide a little bit of slack on that strap, please do. If your knee is still a little bent so that your heel is directly up from that hip, please do. And just take a breath from there. Now, untraditional often in the way this is taught, you're going to go ahead and you're going to let your left hip lift up and see if you can't get the outer right foot down to the ground. In an ideal world, you're in a 90-degree angle, right? But that isn't there for everybody. And the knee can still totally be bent with my outer hip and my outer pinky toe down, right? Now from there, pardon me, with that left hip lifted, right, I'm still maintaining that left heel into the wall with my toes pointing straight up. My right toes, they're pointing to the back of the room. And then I'm going to roll my left shoulder down. So even though my left hip is lifted, my left shoulder can still maintain contact with the floor potentially. Again, this depends on individual bodies, but as best you can in your body. And then I just want you to notice what your body is doing in the shape, right, and how it feels, what's in contact with the floor, what's not, etc., right? Because it's easier to find here than when you're trying to balance on one foot. Take another breath from this place. You might turn and look towards the left, pick up your head and turn your whole head, pivot on the axis or rotate on the axis and set it back down. Yeah? Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring the head back up. We're going to bring that left hip down. We're going to bring the right foot up. We're going to go ahead and we are going to release that the strap from the right foot and reach the right foot back out and make contact with the wall. If you need to adjust, you do. I push those heels into the wall. I pull my kneecaps up so I don't hyperextend. And again, I'm getting that feeling of my feet grounded, right? But also shoulder blades and buttocks flesh moving down. Now bring that left knee in and simply hug it initially. And again, that's fine. Hug it in and round the low back and just maybe move the leg away and hug it in a couple of times and just kind of play with that low back a little bit, especially if we're talking first thing in the morning, yeah? And then from there, you're going to go ahead and when you're ready, strap the foot with the loop. Today, we're going to work with just the left hand on the strap, long arm, but my shoulder's still on the ground, my shoulder blade's still down the back, right? I push my heels in their respective directions and I'm going to go wherever I need to go to straighten the leg, but also work the hamstring line. So right now it is about the stretch through the hamstring and the back of the leg. That's one of the component pieces we need, right? Open hamstrings to do this posture. And from there, maybe that leg comes a little closer now or a little further away so that you're in that 90-degree angle. And the 90-degree with the bent knee, I'd be speaking of your heel in relationship to your hip, yeah? Tee the right arm out, and I'm going to straighten my leg. I'm able to, but you could bend the knee, right? And you're going to go ahead and first, don't let that right hip lift. Keep pushing the right heel into the wall as the left leg comes out to whatever its edge is when you feel the inner groin. Now, give enough slack on the strap, the left elbow comes down to the ground and push both heels into their respective directions. Tone that low belly in. Yeah, take one more breath from here. And then this time you're gonna lift the right hip up. You're gonna let that left leg try to make it to the ground. It might not, and that's okay. You can lift the right hip. If you need to turn the toes a little bit with that, please do. Pardon me. And then from there, right, I'm still pushing my right heel into that wall and feeling that stability. By the way, that will not be the leg you're standing on, but I always talk when you have one leg lifted in the air, no matter what pose you're doing, three-legged dog, right, all the various things, cat, bird, all of those, I always say push your heel into a wall. This is what I mean, yeah? Now tee that right arm out. Maybe you pick the head up gently and you turn the head to the right, setting it back down so that I still have the length, the elongation of the spinal column, right? I just turn the head on the axis. And I know I'm not away from my mic now with my voice, so hopefully you still hear me. You can keep your head turned. I'm turning back this way to make sure you don't lose my voice entirely. That right hip is lifted. How much is it lifted for you? Is the left leg down on the ground? And the answer might be no. Can you ask that right shoulder to move back down the ground? The answer might be no, right? So you're just noticing what you notice about this pose. And again, when we bring it into standing, your left leg, that left leg out to the side, that's going to be what you're standing on. Bring that right hip down, the left leg up, the head back to neutral, bend the knee, release the strap. One more time, push both heels into the wall. Really, really strongly, the very center of the heel, and feel that length through the whole spine. And I want to point out, I often talk about how Tadasana, mountain pose, is the blueprint pose for all of our standing poses. Here we are in Tadasana, yeah? So do you get how that's the blueprint pose, and we just add on to that, right? And change that shape slightly, but there's an element of Tadasana in so many things that we do in yoga, so many things. Okay, so now, you can bend the knees, roll over to the side, and come on up. While you're still on the ground, I want you to reach the heels into the wall again. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to put that strap back behind you, measuring the back of the buttocks. And you know, technically it would be about where your buttocks bones are, but you're going to make that a judgment call when you get up as far as telling where that is. So I'm bringing it right up to the back of my buttocks. I kind of scooted in there, and then I'm going to leave the strap there as I stand up. Bring your block in and just have it on high. Again, even if you do it without a block or usually lower, I'm going to ask you to go for high so that we keep, ideally, we're going to keep the same shape. When my body's a little higher, I can find that same line we literally just had on the ground, yeah? So as she falls over, maybe I shouldn't do balance poses today. So I'm going to bring about the ball mounds of my toes, about where my buttocks bone was. Now that may vary for each of us a little bit, but it's usually pretty accurate. If you want to move the rest of the strap out of there, please do. It was just a marker. And let's have our left foot down. You'll notice that my left toes point to the short edge of my mat, as does my thigh, my knee, and everything else. I'm going to grab onto that block, and I could work more in the middle of my mat. That part doesn't matter so much, right? And then I'm going to bring my right foot up on the wall. Now, if I need to adjust, I do, right? It might feel like you're not at about a 90 degree, and you're just trying to find that as best you can. You know, I'm looking back. This is why I like the stability of the wall and the block, right? I can play with this stuff. And so my right toes are going to point straight, what is forward right now, the same way that your chest and your head are facing, yeah? And then your left toes, they're facing towards that left side of the mat. Put your right hand on your hip for just a second here. Roll your right shoulder back like it could come back down to the ground. Do you remember when we were on the ground and we had our left leg on the ground and our right shoulder was still able to touch even though our right hip was off? It's the same shape, yeah? Now go ahead and reach that right arm up. Try not to bear all of your weight in your left hand. It's easy to do here. Pull your kneecaps up, right? Push into that block. Get that left shoulder blade onto your rib cage so your left ribs rotate forward just slightly. Push your heels, one into the wall, left heel into the, right heel into the wall, left heel into the floor. Really push those heels and root them. And now maybe you turn your head. You don't have to pick your head up because you're not on the ground anymore, right? Lengthen the crown of the head forward and then simply turn and potentially look up. With that wall there and that block there, really it's the wall that's doing it, right? I'm able to actually play a lot more because my balance is more steady with my heels grounded and my hand grounded. Take another breath. I love this version of half moon. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to look down, bend that left knee a little bit and step that right foot down. Pardon me, I am going to turn my back to you because I'm not going to reset the camera up. I don't have a lot of fancy help on editing and everything. So I'm going to put that right foot, ball mounds about where my buttocks bones were. I'm going to put my right hand down on the block so I'm nice and steady. And by the way, my block is on the pinky edge of my right foot, somewhere thereabouts, yeah? I'm going to step that left foot up, and before I get too settled, I'm going to keep my knees my right knee a little bent for this, otherwise I lock out. I'm going to look for that 90-degree angle that comes right in at the pubic bone, right? The femur bones in relationship to the pubic bone, or each other, I guess. Now bend the right knee a little bit, suck that right hip into the socket, straighten the leg, and pull your kneecap up. Left hand is on the hip, by the way. Now keep that, imagine that right pinky toe and that right hip against a floor, yeah? Now can you roll that left shoulder back to that same floor? And can you push that left heel into the wall, that right heel down to the ground? Pull the kneecaps up. Maybe the left arm extends, maybe it does not, yeah? Push down into the block with the right hand. I even like to come up a little bit so I don't bear as much weight. Right shoulder blade rotates the right ribs a little forward. Extend the length, right, of the spine, especially the cervical spine, and then maybe turn and look up and pause. So really reach out like you're a starfish here, each limb. My right fingertips push down, my left fingertips reach up, right? My heels ground into their respective, whatchamacallits, surfaces, and the crown of the head reaches away in the opposite direction of the left foot. Take a breath. Turn and look down, bend the right knee a little bit, and go ahead and step down. And pause for just a moment and take that in. I don't know if I said it at the beginning, I don't think I did, but I might have. Tomorrow is the full moon. Most all y'all know I am a full moon lover. I'm a full moon. I love all the moon, every single day and every phase of the moon. But I'm inspired and did in my own practice. I played a lot with full moon, half moon pose today, prepping for the full moon tomorrow. Okay, so now you can either do it again with the wall, use the wall as your friend, or you step out away from the wall just a little bit so that you're freestanding, putting that in quotes, but we're still gonna use that block, yeah? And some of my friends, once you get it, right, and you find the pose and all of those elements, yeah, you may very well bring your block down to a lower level or even come to the ground, but do you see how much harder that's gonna be for me to still find the shape? Because now I'm taking away that 90-degree angle. So, you know, if you think about it on the ground, suddenly I'm doing this, right, because my fingers and my heel are the same, and I'm still trying to keep that same shape. It's just more intense in the body and harder. So I'm going to stand the block myself. Well, I mean, I might show you what I mean when I say come down, but I'm going to try and stand the block. I find it more fruitful for my body. So I'm going to step away from the wall so that my heel won't be at the wall, unless I want to do the wall again. I'm going to bend my left knee, and I'm going to reach down and put that block a good deal in front of my pinky toe of my left foot. My right hand's going to start on my hip. I'm going to reach the right foot up, and I'm going to immediately imagine the wall there, right? So I'm in the 90-degree angle, hopefully. I push my right heel into that imaginary wall behind me, and then I maybe suck that left hip into the socket and try to straighten the left leg a little bit. And then I'm going to try to roll that right shoulder back so it's on the same wall that my left hip and my left pinky toe would be if I had a wall behind me right now. I might reach my right fingertips up. So again, find that starfish quality, right? Reach through every single limb. I'm going to say you have 5 appendages right now if I include the head. And then maybe you start to turn and look up. Really imagine that right heel is still grounded into the wall like it was just moments ago. That may or may not help you with the turning of the head. And I like to spot with my eyes first and then turn my head. I spot with my eyes and then I turn with my head. And I lengthen through all 5 limbs like the Dickens. I'm about to fall down. And then I'm going to look down, bend the left knee, and step back. Whew, it's a lot harder without that wall there, isn't it? Whew, me too. I can stay and face you this time. Although I feel like it might be beneficial for you to see me from the back side. So I'm going to actually pardon my back to you, but it might be beneficial to see what happens with that standing leg hip, right? When I talk about sucking that right hip in. Because that's the shape. I mean, triangle, anything that we do just briefly, right? When we go into it, that hip, the standing leg hip wants to, the front leg hip, I could say, wants to move out, and that top shoulder wants to come down. So we're trying our darndest, right, to come between 2 panes of glass. My right foot on the ground, my right hand a little bit in front of that pinky toe edge, like, I don't know, 2 feet, maybe 1.5 feet, something like that. I bend my right knee, my left hand's on my hip, and then I put my left foot on that imaginary wall. Use the real one if you'd like to, no big deal. I push that heel into that wall like crazy with that 90-degree between my femurs. I lengthen my crown of my head forward and tone my belly. And then as I straighten that right leg, it's still bent by the way, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to really suck that right hip into the socket. Even as I begin to straighten, make sure you don't lock your knees out, pull your kneecaps up. And now I imagine a wall that I was leaning against with my right pinky toe and my right hip, and I try to roll my left shoulder back so it touches the same wall, yeah? Tone the ribs, a couple of you. Maybe the left fingertips reach up, right? Push into the walls, really push into the hands, reach the crown of the head forward. And then once you have that, what I often call the core line turned on, right? Your spine is elongated and the muscles are supporting that. Maybe turn your eyeballs up and then turn your head. So spot something with your eyes first. Turn your eyeballs up and spot something steady, and then turn your head to that. And do that as many times as you need to. I usually have about 3 times or so before I get into my full position, 3 to 4. And then really push your heels, right? Whoa, lengthen the crown of the head. And turn and look down. Bend the right knee. And come on down. Whew. And breathe. What's happening in here? Yowza. So most all y'all know that when I'm going into bigger poses like that, I usually like to have about an hour and a half class so I can really break stuff down and get us into our component pieces. However, I know some of you don't have as much time and you still want to play with some of these poses. That's a request I had. So here is half moon, Ardha Chandrasana. Have so much fun playing with it, and happy full moon tomorrow, Wednesday. I think it's October 20th, I believe, if I'm correct on that. Love you.